Hello, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is week 11 Sunday game scripts, uncertainty rankings, defense against the position, and Vegas insights. This, again, is my process. I used this kind of information to set the table. This is not the end, this is the beginning of my analysis. We all overthink, but I at least try to frame some of my decisions with multiple data streams. I think that can at least warn you a little bit about getting off kind of by yourself on some things. Maybe that's the secret to winning the $1 million on daily fantasy. I don't know. But this is just stuff that I use for my redraft weekly leagues here. So we'll have information from Vegas using their estimation of the amount of points, kind of the what's called the over-under. Lots of points you think would mean good fantasy times, and low scoring games would be the opposite. Okay. So that kind of frames it right there. You kind of want to make sure you're definitely in on the high scoring games unless there's just something that leads you away from that. And, the depth of how far down the depth chart you play in your flex. I mean, that's always an issue, right? You kind of know your main stud players, but it's those flexes that can flip you around, or those closely ranked players can give you fits. And this is the way I try to break those ties, is using these different streams of information. And you get to see an example of this. And this whole article with all the data for this week 11, is at the scienceoffantasyfootball.com. You can check out my articles and all the other goodies that we have there for you to consider. Also, I use defense against the position tables, my DAPS. We're looking for sweet spots, right? Spots in the defenses, the so-called hot spots, sweet spots, where we should place maybe fringe players or should avoid fringe players. So I get and give you an idea about each team, their opponent, and what the overall DAP score of that opponent is. And home and away is really critical this time of year, giving the weather coming and these kind of things. And also, if you look at my snaps report, I have my home and away efficiencies, and there's actually some very intriguing splits there, and may not be as apparent as people will report on Twitter. I don't see much of it reported. If it is, it's just kind of in passing, but there's no metrics to it or anything, and there's no data there that I can ever see. A lot of people talk a lot of things, but it's hard to find that data, and that's why me and D Mike did this, try to make it a little bit more data, science, metrics, stir in that gumbo here. So we have overall DAPS. We have the running back, kind of the rushing DAPS. And that's a little tricky because rushing and pass catching, it can get a little confusing there, but I probably should break that down at some point. I just hadn't got around to it. There's so much else to do. Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end are kind of the passing worlds. Kicker and defenses. Okay, if you stream kickers and defenses and these kind of things, this can point you away or point you to some better choices, right? I didn't say it pointed you to the choice. Okay. but it kind of gives you a group you probably should be hanging with and groups you shouldn't be this week. And then, of course, I try to give my rankings table of each team in the context of everything else, including the positions, my rankings, my fantasy sports professor rankings, FSPRs, and the uncertainty levels that I've assigned this week. The uncertainty levels is a little bit of the art side. I do use some kind of metric analysis, but I do tweak it with kind of some Ouija board gyrations here that I will not talk about. Hey, we've got to have some secrets here, and one day I'll get around to getting hard and into this, but right now this is where I'm at. So high, average, and low uncertainty. Long story short, you can read the paragraph, but low uncertainty players should be thought of as more safe. Notice I didn't say extremely safe or, I just said more safe than high uncertainty players. Be less safe, right, in my rankings, right? If you think of rankings as kind of a midpoint of outcome distribution, then the narrow or the wideness of the outcomes is related to uncertainty, right? So just, a high ranked, low uncertainty player is more satisfying to me than a high ranked, high uncertainty player. I'm more worried about things maybe even outside that player's purview. Could be the defense is funky, it's an away game, if they have bad splits, quarterback's been hurt lately, the player's been a little bit gimpy, just all sorts of things. That makes it the art side of things. So the first thing then, kind of more framing, is my weekly power rankings based on Vegas, based on matchups, based on my rankings and uncertainty, and again, some more metrics with the artistic gyrations that I won't go into. But long story short, I tried to rank each team on power rankings and scale that to the average. So I have power rankings, and of course closer to 100, and no teams are going to get that high. In fact, 60 this week with Cincinnati is pretty damn good. And that's 21. And so you can think that they're 21 times better than the Giants, right? And the lowest of the rank this week is Carolina to minus 19. So Cincinnati is 40 times better than Carolina, and I don't know if those metrics are really real, but I like to stay up here in the top, and I really get extra worried about the bottom. Doesn't mean I won't play teams at the bottom of my power rankings. I use this to kind of, okay, John, you better think once, twice, three times about this. A lot of times we kind of nod off and, yeah, this is good, this is bad, and you're just halfway asleep or, getting over your hangover. And look, I'm setting rankings and gyrating the whole week. And this is just some of that gyration here. So I'm trying to help my lineups. I'm usually about 85% accuracy according to some software that I use. I don't know if that's good or bad. I mean, they don't tell you what's the average player in the league or the platform I play on, so that may be sucky. I don't know, but that seems pretty good to be. You're only wrong 15% of the time, so that means out of 100 decisions, I've pulled the button wrong 15. That, some in my head, that seems pretty damn good. But again, I don't know the metrics, so I couldn't say if that's about average or not. But that's kind of where I hit. And if you track that information for yourself, if you're not close to that, then keep your diary. Maybe I'm helping you here. I don't know. I hope if I can lower your mistakes, then, that's got to help over the long haul, right? Yeah, if you play one league a week, and I play 50, so any kind of advantages I have for my process is magnified 50 times, right? So the luck gets dispersed out the more trials you get at something, right? So in gambling, one of the earliest things I learned is if you have a advantage, then you should play as much as possible, right? A positive advantage. And if you have a negative advantage, you should play little as possible. So when you walk into the casino, how you should play like roulette, take all your money and do the red or black and walk out the door, because you do not have a long-term advantage. There's some cases where people have beat the roulette wheel, and you can read those books. There's some neat books, and these are like high level, rocket scientists, high level mathematic physicists that are doing this, solving equations of the orbit of the moon around the earth. If you think about the roulette wheel and the ball is kind of the moon and the earth concept, it's pretty neat to read some of those books. And I think in blackjack and of course in poker, but I'm talking these things where you know exactly your odds. So if you ever want to know how to do it, say, well, I'm not having fun. Well, if you want to lose money but have fun, then okay, great. But if you want to deal with a negative expectation, then take your bankroll, bet it red and black, and if you win, walk out the door. If you lose, of course, you've lost your bankroll. And on the other hand, if you're good at blackjack and you got a 1% advantage, you should play all night long until you get tired, right? So you should play over and over and over to let that 1% build up over trials. So if you're not familiar with that, I suggest, get with some common gambling books and get some of that information in your head a little bit, because you need to be aware of bankroll management and these kind of things. Especially if you play daily fantasy. I don't do that because I just don't have time to learn that yet. But anyway, so I do frame the world that way. And I like visuals, so I actually can see Minnesota, Dallas, San Francisco, Buffalo, Baltimore, KC seem to be pretty damn good this week. Probably not surprising. Some of the bad teams, the Jets got me worried. The Chargers got me worried. I know Allen and Williams supposedly are back. I'm still worried. Indianapolis did pretty good, but I'm still worried about them. I'm not convinced yet. And then something has nothing to do with power rankings is uncertainty levels. I calculate the number of players I got ranked each week at each team. And I figure out a ratio of the high uncertainty and average uncertain players relative to the so-called safe players. And I do a metric called HA, high and average divided by low. So I just call it hollow. And because that's your bankroll at the end of the day, it's hollow. And this week it's the Chargers. So I got the Chargers here, low power ranking, and I got them really concerned about all these players from injury. And yeah, not saying I won't play Keenan Allen. It just, if it goes south, I shouldn't be, well, how come I didn't think of it? I did think about it. I went ahead and then basically gambled a little bit here, right? You got some good stud players out there on these teams. What do you do when there's some uncertainty? Well, I just think you need to be aware of it and make you think, are you really sure you need to play this over another one? So here's the players that I'm from these teams I'm worried about. Here's the so-called safer teams of the week. And you see the Chargers, to me, really are telling you be extra cautious this week. Of course, they may score 10 touchdowns. You're saying, Bush, what are you doing? Hey, this is overall across the season. Anything can happen in any kind of situation, but I just like to know. I don't like to not know at least what I'm stepping into. Hey, that ground over there is soft, right? It may have some quicksand. Okay, well, I got to go that way. Well, okay, you maybe step a little lighter, right? I'm walking across the frozen river. It's cracking. I need to know that. How thin is the ice? Okay, so I need to know that. So I use that information. So finally, I then come to the high point scoring games by Vegas of the week. And the big surprise, of course, Bills and Browns. I hope they're going to play this. I just read something this Friday that they were talking about maybe they can't even get out of town, so they're going to cancel the game. Oh, my God. I hope they let us know Saturday, because people going to be going apeshit crazy. So Friday night, I'm going to be working to get my scenarios down, and as soon as I hear about it, I'm jumping. So if they cancel the game, I need to be aware of it, right? Because the platforms don't have that. It's a bye week kind of thing. So that can be really crazy this week. Okay, so just be aware. I heard that. I have no clue what's going to happen. I just heard that. Of course, you never know on Twitter. Yes, Twitter's still up. Y2K didn't happen. Okay, it's all good. So this week, the high point scoring games, Falcon Bears, Chiefs Chargers are 51 maybe. Cowboys Vikings about 48. Bills Browns have moved from about 43 to 49 because they're playing supposedly in Detroit in a dome away from the blizzard. Okay. Well, that changed a lot of things. The game, the spread is 6 here. Chiefs Chargers, it's a touchdown. Look at the Cowboys Vikings. It's a flip 'em. That's the last team with the ball probably can win. So that's I like those kind of games because that means those teams are not going to quit. They're not going to rest players in the fourth quarter if it's a blowout. Always worried about that. I just don't want that to happen. So I like close spread games. I get a little uneasy about big spread games, like the Bills. If the Bills get ahead by 10 points, they'll probably still play. But imagine the Browns just completely implode and are 20, 25 points down. The Bills are going to start resting folks, and they're going to start not passing. They're going to start running, and that changes your passing. Diggs gets you less points than normal, etc., etc. So I do get a little worried about that. But anyway, this is where the fireworks are supposed to be this week. So I like to hang with a lot of these players from these teams. These are my DAP scripts for the week right here. Atlanta and the Bears. You can read this as game, team, week, the segment, which is the last half of the season. Home and away. So Atlanta is playing at home. That's good. Their opponent, Chicago. Chicago's a little bit tough. Notice the running backs for Atlanta have an easy time. Mariota has an easy time, but notice the wide receivers are tough. And Kyle Pitts has to earn his biscuits this week as well. So when I see something like this, I'm thinking maybe he's passing to Patterson and some of these other, that platoon of running backs there. So I'm probably going to be playing those platoons a little bit and hope that they get some of these passing situations out because of that. Chicago, on the other hand, with Fields, play them all day long. Look at that. Easy, easy, easy. So it looks like all hands on deck. Cole Kmet, play them. Is it, who's Booney? Even though it's X3, I don't know about him. Fields probably is going to be running. Montgomery, because Herbert's out. I'm playing him all day long. So that's how I use the DAPS to kind of frame it a little bit more. Notice we're talking about players at this point. Dallas, Minnesota is 1 point. All day long, Dallas gets a little bit of an easy show overall, but Zeke and Pollard have to earn their money. Dak's going to have to earn it, but his wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb and Schultz, should feast. So there you go. There, looks like that's where it would be going this week. So maybe Pollard gets some passing. I don't know if Elliott's playing. I think he's playing, but he's been injured. Minnesota, Dallas is tough. Look at Dalvin Cook. He's been doing great, but boy, he's going to earn. Look at this. Tough. Cousins, tough. Look at the Hawkinson, tough. The Jefferson, tough. So they're going to have to really play above their head. The good news is they're playing at home, so that gives them a little bit of an advantage. But right now, Vegas doesn't know really. They picked Dallas, but it's by 1 point. It's a pick 'em. And so they're basically saying Dallas is not going to do enough offense to counter Minnesota against the tough Dallas D. So it's still, Vegas is kind of seeing this, but they're kind of, Minnesota's still going to do okay. And I get worried about that because that's contradictory evidence to me. So when I play these DAPs, I get extra worried about this kind of business here. Kansas City, the Chargers, basically the Chargers get an easy Kansas City, which the Chargers are going to need. Eckler should feast, and Herbert should feast with the tight end. Everything says go. I'm just saying the range of outcomes I'm concerned about. Big, because of all the injuries that come back. KC looks like it's a Pachenko day. Look at this. Easy. And Kelsey's going to earn his biscuits, so that usually means he won't get you 3 touchdowns. Maybe he'll get us 1. I hope. But he may just catch a lot. He may not get a touchdown. I don't know. Everybody talking about Tony. Tony's going to have to earn it. Okay? Going to have to earn it. Doesn't mean KC won't. What's the KC is 7, so it's a touchdown. So when Vegas says that KC, even with a little bit of tough slate here, tells me that they don't think the Chargers can capitalize on the easy Kansas City D. That's how I interpret that. So try to read between the lines. In other words, if you just looked at this and tried to set, you would probably put this game very close. But Vegas says no, they're a touchdown. So when I say contradictory, that means that there's data pushing you one way or the other a little bit. So that's why it's a little tough to have 100% accuracy on lineups. Okay, this is the kind of information that you have to struggle with here. Buffalo and Seattle. The Browns, Cleveland. Buffalo's tough, rough and tough. Bissett, Cooper, Njoku or whoever, looks like they're going to be just crushed and roughhoused, and Cleveland's going to have to play rushing all day long. And that's what this same kind of scenario was last night in Tennessee with Henry. He was the only bright spot on the DAPS, and he really did fine. So you figure Chubb can do it. So if Cleveland can stay within shooting distance, they have a shot at keeping up with Buffalo. But right now, Buffalo is figured 9-point, 10-point. So Vegas is saying they don't think Chubb can do it. They're thinking the defense spanks the passing, shuts that down, and Chubb is 8 men in the box kind of show. So they think they'll be able to. Vegas says this is going to be neutralized. Be interesting to see if that's the case. Buffalo, it's pretty much play them all day. I wouldn't play Dox, but definitely Diggs, definitely Singletary here. And I'm looking to see if Hines can work his way back in a little bit. I'm not playing him, just watching. Okay. So this is the scenarios, and if this is confusing, what I would do while you on platform, I'd take a picture of this, and I have a picture, and so I use my iPad to set my lineups usually when I'm with the family, because I get cranky when I'm never around in football season. So I can go downstairs and everybody else is on their Pokemon. My daughter is, and my wife's looking at her stuff. So we're watching TV, but not really. And so this will be stuff I will use. So I'll take a picture of this and refer to it. So I would urge you to do the same. I'll just go through how I look at the games here. Here's Chicago and Atlanta. So looks like Chicago should run roughshod over Atlanta. Atlanta looks like their running backs are the show here, from what I can tell. Vegas says it's closer than you would think, and they've got the Falcons. So Vegas does not buy Fields. Isn't that interesting? The data says, purchase Fields all day long. Isn't that interesting? Vegas not as convinced. So that, again, more contradictions here. But anyway, Chicago, see, I got Fields at 88. That's a QB1 this week. Montgomery, high range of outcome, RB2. Komet, or TE2, but it's high. But I think he's going to get his. I just don't know if it's a touchdown. Mooney is WR3 type. Maybe Claypool. I don't know. This could be low. But I still think he's still learning the route trees and everything. Patterson. This is Atlanta. Mariota. He's I don't know what QB 2-3. I don't know. Vegas would probably argue that number's too low. Patterson, though, looks like he can be an RB3 this week. Maybe Tyler as well. But I think Patterson has maybe catching, but I think Alger's safer. So last week we saw that same scenario. Patterson just didn't get in the flow. So I may be ranking this completely flipped here, but that's right now on a Friday. That's how I'm seeing it. These are not RB1s by any means. Pitts, what can I say? He's a tight end 1, bottom 12 this week, right here, 76. High, that means he could catch a touchdown or not. It's just, I don't know. Drake London, you hope. He's a 4-3, maybe. I mean, if you, in a flex, a deep flex, maybe roll the dice, but you can see, look at that tough DAP. So I would look elsewhere. 4, great. But if you're desperate, I'd play him. But it's a 4. He's a 4 this week. So I'm probably pretty conservative, but I like to, again, frame that. And it's just, I best to be conservative because I'm usually closer to being reality than too optimistic in fantasy. It's just, you can get burned real quick. And I'm not exuberant about this game at all here. I'm probably over exuberant about Fields and Montgomery and Kmet. So that I'm probably going to get, because Vegas would tell me don't get too crazy on the Bears. So that's interesting. Okay, this is way longer than I wanted to go. I kind of got off on some tangents here. Take a look at the high shootouts and, of course, the opposites. And you can look at my complete article here. We got 5 sad games, and here they are. Be cautious. Anything below 42, pick cautiously. And notice the spreads are pretty close, except for the Bengals. So this is one of those games where the Bengals should just bury the Steelers, right? But if that's the case, Vegas only says 5. So that worries me. It's like this should be 36. So I don't know. I always get worried when Vegas seems to be taking the wind out of my opinion there a little bit. And that's probably Vegas. Think about it. They millions of dollars on their decisions. So I do try to pay attention to it. Anyway, I wish you good luck week 11. I hope I help you. Get your diary, keep your data, keep your powder dry this week in daily fantasy. Good luck. Let's crush this week. Woo woo.